There's no easy way to say this. Guess I'll say it to you.
Good evening, everyone from Hailing Island today. This is Thundersmiths Drumspiration, and on this latest episode, I am with my long buddy and drummer, Karl. How are you doing, mate?
I'm really well, thank you, Matt. How about yourself? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, good. The kids are asleep now, so hopefully I won't get interrupted by them. I think the only interruption we might get is next door's big German Shepherd, whose name's Ian, like the kind of most dog name, well, the most non-dog name you could ever think of. So yeah, Ian. Ian the German Shepherd, and then they've got a bulldoggy thing. I think his name's like Harry, or very human names. But yeah, they're both barky like my two dogs. I got Hector, who's a 7-year-old Schnauzer cross poodle, who's just barky as hell, and Frida, she's about a year and a bit, so she's kind of his girlfriend. So yeah, I got two dogs. You got any dogs?
No, I don't have any dogs. I actually haven't got any pets, but
The neighbour's cat.
Cat, yeah, I got Moxie, the neighbour's cat. So yeah.
He's friendly. He looks lovely.
Yeah. To be fair, when I first moved, I mean, me and my partner have only been probably 6 months. And where we live is in the middle of like 4 fields, and it's basically on like a farm. There's like 4-5 barns, and everyone was like, "Oh, that cat doesn't talk to no one." Talk to no one? Cat doesn't talk. The cat doesn't see anyone. Now I moved, and within like a day or so, the cat was on my doorstep and hasn't left me alone since, basically.
Sounds really idyllic. I mean, unless you suffer from hay fever, then living amongst fields is probably not the best thing. But it sounds amazing.
Badly with hay fever, and the farm that we live on is a granary farm, so they're constantly like combining and stuff. So I've got a cupboard full of hay fever tablets.
Okay, fine. So it's not just me. I was going to say, like, we live on a granary. You've probably got an unlimited supply of Hovis. But, yeah. So go on. No, go on.
No, I was just saying, to add to what you said. Yes, it is very idyllic, and we're very lucky to live where we live. It's beautiful. So
where do you live? You not Wolverhampton, are you?
No, I'm actually. So obviously, I connect with Wolverhampton, obviously through like Tom and Dale, that sort of area. Yes. But no, so I live just outside Rugby, so bang in the Midlands.
Okay.
I live in a little village called Flecknoe, so it's literally in the arse end of nowhere. Like I said, you have to drive probably a good half a mile down our drive to actually get to where we live. We're just in the middle of like fields, so it's just beautiful, mate. I live a stone's throw away from the canal. There's just hills and fields everywhere. It's beautiful.
Yeah, you don't miss the Asda and the Starbucks that much.
To be honest, mate, no, because obviously with what I do for work and stuff, it's I get to go out into the towns and stuff when I'm passing through work and stuff. So no, it's not too bad. I just love being out in the middle of nowhere and it's quiet. I mean, I'm sat outside now and you can probably hear nothing.
Yeah. It looks lovely. It's lovely. Where, very, very sunny.
Yeah, it's well, I mean, yeah, at least it's not raining. That's all I can say.
So remind me and everyone else what you do for work. What's your job?
So I've got a very interesting job. So for years, I basically ran a pub. After COVID and stuff, I left the pub, went into building, but now I'm a swimming pool engineer and technician. So the company I work for, which is my stepdad's, we build swimming pools. So we build people swimming pools. But during like the season, so to speak, I don't really build inside. I basically go off on my own, and I basically make sure all of my customers, their pools are kept to a high standard. So basically, cleaning the pools,
your chlorine, your filters, and all that. Yeah.
It's basically not going to hurt anyone, basically.
So if I need a swimming pool, or if anyone does, it's dial Karl.
Yeah.
Dial Karl. Okay.
Yeah, pretty much.
I'll consider that when my garden isn't the size of our downstairs toilet. I'll consider that.
I mean, I've got paddling pools, mate. If that's any good to you.
Yeah, paddling pools. To be honest, I used to before we had kids, had a hot tub. Bought it off our next door neighbour who lived. They've moved sort of a bit further up Hailing, and we got like a refurbished hot tub, and it was amazing. It was like you kind of feel like so you're part of like the elite part of society, as it were. But it was amazing. Like in the winter, put the hot tub on, and it was nice and warm. It was lovely. And I think we had Atticus when he was a baby. He kind of had a go in the hot tub, and like sometimes I suffer from like sciatica and I get a bad back. So the hot tub was amazing, but then kind of realised how much it cost. Because it had an outdoor power, isolated power supply, and it cost quite a bit. And then sort of stopped looking after it, and then it got a bit scummy. And I was like, do you know what? money sitting there doing nothing, and it basically ruined the decking it was on. So I had to rip the decking up and all that. But yeah, in a bigger house, I get another hot tub because honestly, having a beer in the freezing cold in a warm hot tub is like one of the most amazing things.
Oh no, I completely agree. But this is the thing: everyone thinks it's a very simple thing to have.
Oh no, it's
The amount of people that ring us and say, "Oh, I've got a swimming pool and I'd like you to come and clean it just this once because I can look after it myself." And I said, "That's absolutely fine. You know, I'd never ever doubt someone that says I can do something myself.
yeah.
I can almost put money on. I'll go and clean it, get it all sorted, and normally it's in quite a state. And I can almost put in the month they will ring me again and say, Martin, again, I'll happily do that. You know, it's part of the service, part of the company that I work for. But it's a lot. There's a lot more to it. And I mean, to be honest, I didn't quite realize how much there was to actually looking after a swimming pool. Like cleaning a swimming pool is easy, but it's what the water like science behind it that you need to know,
like the pH balance and all that, and
yeah, all that sort of stuff. And it just it took me a little while to get my head around, but once I did get my head around it, then I find it fairly simple now. So yeah.
I don't get like you don't really get like obviously unless it's a small swimming pool like jacuzzi thing, you don't really get you know, obviously like all sorts of crap can get stuck in them and you have to do like a flush, like a full drain and a flush and all that stuff. So but I've seen like in the States like some really bad swimming pools where it's kind of like you know, a really like thick layer of algae almost like on the top, and like all the crap they've got to get out of like the main under the water inlet, outlet, and all that, and it's kind of like Jesus Christ. And then when you see it like it's done, you think bloody hell, you know, it's like the Bahamas. It's amazing, but yeah, it's quite especially like a big one. It's quite a lengthy job, and also like if the lining goes, you know, you got leaks and all that. It's a bit of a pain in the backside, but yeah.
It is, yeah. I mean, it's an interesting job. I think for me, the upside to it is one, say, self-employed. So I can pick and choose when I work. I mean, obviously, I want to work as much as possible because everyone needs money. But I mean, the real upside is obviously I've just had a baby with my other half, and I can literally leave home for work at 7:30. I can be home by 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah.
So it means I've got the whole day as opposed to some people that maybe work 9-5. They're home by 5:30 and their baby's going to bed at say 6:30. They get that hour, whereas I get to spend that time with my other half and a lot longer with Aurelia. So I'm very lucky for that in that respect.
So you're basically a glamorous pool boy for want of a yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's nice. I don't actually get to see anyone. Like, there's a couple of customers that I get to talk to, but 9 times out of 10, I turn up to someone's house, go in, clean their pool, off I go. I haven't got to talk to anyone. Not that I don't people, but it's nice. Like, there's no one on your back like putting pressure on you. It's just very easy going.
And you get to have a bit of a cheeky dip, maybe. You know, I don't know if you've ever done that.
Oh, I have a few times. But they're on holiday, I might just accidentally fall in.
But, on the lilo with a bottle of Bud, yeah.
Yeah, but they didn't see that. It's all right.
So obviously, like the whole point of this series that I'm kind of putting together is not necessarily just to find out about drums as much as obviously we're both drummers. You know, we've got like producers and sound engineers because that's what I kind of used to do in London when I was at school. Like I was a sound engineer, so kind of I guess I'm trying to get a view of like a 360 view of kind of almost like the band. So you kind of got your manager, you got the festival promoter, you got all how it all kind of fits together. But like drums for me, like I like to get quite techie in terms of when you said the science of swimming pools, the kind of the science of sound, the science of drums, and kind of all the how your different heads and woods and metals and all that, how that kind of how that produces the sound that you kind of want. But yeah, like I said, as seeing as we're both drummers, I mean, what I kind of want to find out is so the journey for you, like drums, where did it start? Was your family, were they musical? Did they kind of encourage you to sort of do music from a young age, or kind of did you find the drums on your own? Yeah.
So for me, I mean, I started to play drums when I was 11. I mean, my dad at the time wasn't necessarily musical, very into music, like absolutely love music. Obviously, when he was like the year he was born, he grew up through the 80s. So obviously spent a lot of time going out to a lot of music, a lot of like music festivals, spent a lot of time at Monsters of Rock, that sort of thing. He had two brothers, so one younger, one older, who were both very heavily into music. They never ever really played in bands, but so his older brother was a guitarist, still is. He's a very talented guitarist as well, but he doesn't necessarily go out and play. He just like plays for himself, but he's absolutely phenomenal. And then my dad's younger brother, he was a drummer. I think he actually did play in a few different bands, like around like local areas and stuff, or like had a knock with people in people's garages and stuff. But I can remember probably being about 4, 5 maybe, and I used to go to my uncle's house on the rare occasion, and there'd always be a drum kit there. And I can, it's one of those things, obviously, because you get a guitar, and don't get me wrong, there's some beautiful guitars out there. Not that I know much about them, but there's some beautiful guitars out there. And you can walk into a room and it's like, that's a really nice guitar. But when you walk into a room, and obviously, as you know, a drum kit will fill a room.
Yeah.
And obviously, especially if it's looked after, it's big, it's bright, it's shiny, and it just instantly catches your eye. So I think realistically, that's probably where I got drawn towards drums. But I mean, that was, say, I was probably like 5 maybe. But then from there on, then there's never really any sort of direction of me like going towards playing my drums. But again, I spent just years like listening to, not even on purpose, maybe just like subconsciously. Like my dad would have music playing around the house and stuff, like like most people do. So I suppose that's how I got into that side of music, just by following what my dad listened to. It wasn't until I was about, I don't know, it was about 10, 11. And I used to play football quite a lot for like a local football team. And I can always remember going to this one rehearsal, or going to a football practice. And basically it was raining that much that it had been called off. And me and my dad basically went out and we got like a McDonald's or something, I don't know.
Yeah.
And we were sat in the car and we were listening to, Dream Theater, because that was like one of the bands that my dad loved. He'd seen numerous times over the years. And I just found it fascinating, like, to listen to. It was different to everything else that he'd been listening to, in terms of like, he used to listen to like a lot of Sabbath, or like, Bon Jovi, or whatever he was listening to. And I was thinking, oh, this is different. It's very like complex. I mean, I say at 11 years old, it was kind of like, this is very complex. Went to secondary school, and first music lesson, we basically got offered, okay, so at this school, you can either learn to play drums, guitar, bass, you can have singing lessons, whatever it may be. So I goes home as an 11-year-old and said, I want to learn to play with drums. And I think it kind of shocked both my parents. But anyway, they agreed. And I started doing drum lessons, and I had those drum lessons for 2 months maybe. And this is the one thing that I probably regret the most, to a degree. The reason I stopped having drum lessons was because my teacher, I suppose because it was through a school, he had stuff, like points he had to hit, and basically he was pushing
Curriculum,
that's the word I was after. Curriculum, yeah. So he was basically pushing for me to do grades. Now, being 11 years old, I wasn't interested. I just wasn't. I wanted to sit behind a drum kit, teach me how to play it, let me make some noise. That's exactly what I wanted to do. Whereas now, like best part of 20 years later, it's probably one of those things that I kind of go, do you know what? I probably should have done it. Would it have made me a better player? Maybe. I don't know. I'll never know. But it is one of those things that I kind of wish I'd listened to more, but I didn't. So I ended up giving up lessons. But it was like, so that was in the September that I started the lessons. By November, I'd give up, but I still wanted to do it. And my parents bought me my first drum kit for Christmas. And I think I remember rightly, it was just like, I don't know, it's like the Canon Adder, like drum kit, basically like plastic. But, Christmas came and they're like, oh, I've got a present for you in the loft. And I went up and, it was the best Christmas ever, because it was like, I've got a drum kit, I've my own drum kit. So basically every night after school, come home, homework, dinner, and then 2 hours of drumming every single day. And it was just a case of, I'd get a laptop or whatever it may be, laptop, computer, and then I'd just watch YouTube, or I'd watch music DVDs, or I'd listen to CDs with my dad, or my dad started taking me to concerts when I was like 12. And you'd go and you just sit and, or stand and just watch the drummer. And I was just fixated with the drums. And yeah, really, it's just a case of being like self-taught. And I used to basically just play on my own for years. until I sort of made friends with some other kids in the village that also were different musicians. So like a guitarist. There was a girl who used to live. I say at the bottom of my garden. It was always a running joke. Our garden's joined from top to bottom, but yeah, she lives at the bottom of my garden. She learned how to play bass, and we kind of formed this like childhood band, and it was cool. I mean, I always look back and think, you know what? For our ages, like it weren't bad. Like
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I wouldn't go out and gig it now, but at 11 years old, started. It was like, yeah, this is pretty cool. And from there on, then I was just hooked. Really, it was just absolutely loved how I felt sitting behind a drum kit. So that's kind of where it all started, really.
I mean,
So, yeah.
I see what. I mean, I'd say I mirror what your kind of experience was regarding grades and sort of theory, effectively. Because I grew up in West London, so near Hammersmith, a place called Acton. Most people know like Hammersmith or Shepherd's Bush. You say that, I mean, they know where you are.
Yeah.
And I mean, funny enough, drums. I kind of started. It was weird. It was at church because my parents were just pissed off with me doing nothing on a Sunday. So I got not forced, but politely shoved out the house. I think I started like doing choir practice for this traditional church, which wasn't my thing. And then this sort of modern, it's not Pentecostal. What do they? But anyway, like a modern church, and they had like a band, like guitar player and a keyboardist or whatever, and they were like, "Oh, we need a drummer." So I, got introduced to the drums by this guy called, I think his name was Kieran. He was a really good break dancer, but he was an amazing drummer at the time. And this was about, again, 11 years old, and literally from there, just I played some big Christian festivals. I mean, I'm not sort of into the whole religion thing now. I'm like more spiritual, but played in front of like 50,000-60,000 people in these big like worship conferences. So kind of like. Yeah, sort of. It was really good, like really big experiences. But I was stubborn with theory again, like you, self-taught, listen to CDs, watch YouTube, and kind of teach yourself. But I did the audition for this place called Drum Tech it was actually sort of, I think it was Acton, and they do like guitar tech, bass tech, vocal tech. So anyway, I went along to this thing, and they sort of told you what they do and this and the other, very like reading music and things. That's the kind of like, I'm like, I don't really want to read music. I think I can play. I don't see how that's going to benefit me. So I ended up, they had a guy called Jose Pasalas, who is a drummer of Incubus, and he was doing a talk about, why you should learn this, and this, and this. So anyway, there's like about 10, 15 kids, including me, who obviously wanted to sort of play drums. And anyway, so we all individually went into this like drum room, and he was there, sat in the corner, and one of the teachers. So anyway, he was like, right, he came in and he said, "Oh, nice to meet you. Can you play this?" I looked at it, and it was like crotchets and quavers. It wasn't like drum music, sort of like guitar tablature. I went, okay, it's a crescendo. Yeah, I can understand. It's getting louder. It's getting slower. I can understand. So, right, can you play it? I went, probably not. And he said, okay, if I give you 10 minutes and come back, would you be able to play it? And I was like, no. And I was like, if you give me an hour, I probably couldn't. So anyway, the Incubus drummer, because what we had to do for this thing was basically play a song that we really liked. And there's a song off an album called Morning View, and I don't know how au fait you are with Incubus, but there's a song called Are You In? And it starts off this really cool kind of like almost like 6-tom roll, and it was quite jazzy, the kind of the way the drums came in. And I thought I could play sort of the intro, verse, and chorus. And the Incubus drummer, and it was like, it was pretty good. And the teacher, he said, look, very good, but your hand to feet coordination is a bit messy. And I'm like, okay. And so from then, I mean, I'm probably exactly like you. If I did grades and theory, I'd probably be better. Better is a difficult word. It's like I'd be a different drummer, I think.
Yeah.
But I kind of think the way you almost kind of pitch to yourself is like, right, you could have, like, say, you as a drummer, go into a rehearsal room with any bunch of musicians and you could play. But if you got a theory-based drummer without sheet music and put him into a you know, like just a jam scenario, would they be able to play? Would they be like, oh, have you got some? It's you know, it's not like that. But I think self-taught's kind of the world's your oyster. You can kind of play almost whatever style you want, and
I think
you're not sort of like being in the army. You know, you're not kind of playing to like a regimented curriculum or kind of you've got to learn this before you want to do double pedal or whatever. You've got to learn the very basics before you can do that. And I know, like, say as a kid you'd be like, no, but I want to do this, I want to play really loud and really fast, I want to be like Neil Peart and but like, walking before you can run. But hey, I mean, I've watched you, we'll get onto it later, but with Bad Flowers, Wolfjaw, and bombastic is like the way I describe your playing, very powerful, and even from a technical point of view, like I'd listen to you and I'd probably think you've had lessons, because I'm like, I don't know how to do that, my triplet technique isn't as good as that, I don't, so it's kind of
here's the thing, here's the best of it, right? If I'm doing triplets, I don't know that I am. Like, this is the thing. I just love playing, and this is the thing. I got asked this a while. Someone said, I didn't enjoy this question at all. But someone said to me, how would you rate yourself as a drummer as a drummer on the local scene? Now, I'm not going to say where that came from.
Yeah, fine.
Weird, but it put me back into my chair. And I thought, not only is that like a really weird question to be asked, like how, like, because you got to understand, like, obviously on the local scene or the national scene, a lot of us are all friends. So I'm not going to be like, do you know what? Yeah, I don't get it. But you're trying to better yourself about your mates. Do you know what I mean? And that's just weird. It felt a really unnatural question to answer, but I had to give an answer. And to be honest, and I stick by this statement. For instance, you just mentioned, obviously, my time, obviously, with Bad Flowers and Wolfjaw and stuff. If you used to actually, like, take away my theatrics, like, the thing is, for me, like, it wasn't that technical. Like, if you used to break down what I played, like, it's very, very simple. Like, very simple. Most theatrics. Like, but the thing is that band didn't call for any sort of technical drumming. It just needed to be powerful and driving. That's all it needed to be. But I look at some of the drummers that are playing, and I think, like, I'd love to be that good.
Yeah.
Whether they're like professional drummers, or whether, like you said, they're mates of ours that are all playing up and coming unsigned bands that are just trying their damn hardest to make it. You know what I mean? It was just a very horrible question to answer, but I answered as honestly as I possibly could, and basically, I don't rate myself, like, in any walk of life, really. I don't believe in rating people. I think everyone's got their own different ability, special in their own way, and everyone brings something different to the table and to their own band. But to talk about myself, I'm not a technical drummer. I don't believe so anyway. I don't look at myself and think, God, I'm real technical. I actually think I'm very simple when it comes to playing the drums. I think it probably looks a bit more technical because I'm a bit more theatrical, and I just let loose a little bit, I guess. I don't know, but I wouldn't consider myself as a technical drummer. Definitely not.
Like I said, it's sort of everyone, whether you're a drummer, an artist, F1 driver, whatever, everyone's going to look at you in a different way, from a different angle, from a different pedestal, or from a different, but, like, I mean, the whole, what you said, the question is like, it brings me back to, so, as much as I've not done many of these, videos, I've done maybe 6 or 7. So, Dane Campbell from Phil Campbell and the Bastard Sons, he's kind of inspired me to do this. And, when we did that tour, was it last year before last, 2021? And he does this podcast called Drum for the Song. And it's very matter of fact in regards to the title of the podcast, because, it's about playing for the song. And so, like, people say, oh, you're amazing, and it kind of makes you feel good about yourself, but at the same time you almost feel, you kind of, how do you respond to it? You don't go, oh, thanks, I'm brilliant. I mean, literally every time my standard response is, oh, thanks, it was a great show, or it was a shitty show, blah, blah, blah. I'm all right. I get by. But the way I kind of, if someone asked me the same question, like, how good do you think you are, not even comparing yourself, just as a drummer, I think, I've not done grades or anything. I've not done theory. I'm very practically led, and I think my abilities as a drummer are good enough to facilitate the band that I'm in. Like it works. I know what the style is. Kind of it's like what the job description is, kind of thing, and you kind of play to that. If you're doing bloody blast beats or whatever, your metal, you do that. But it's kind of and that's it. It's kind of and I watched a interview with, and I think I've mentioned this in the videos I've done, Tommy Clufetos. He did the last couple of tours with Black Sabbath. The was it End of the World
Yeah.
tour, and he basically, what he said was, you're at the back, and as a drummer, your job is to play well enough that the guys at the front, the singers, the bassists, or keyboard, whatever, is they're not like constantly thinking at the back of their head, shit, what's he going to do next? Or you want to kind of make everyone feel relaxed, at the front of the stage. And that's kind of, I think that's the drum for the song thing is absolutely, that's it. If you're kind of trying to do all these solos and blah blah, and it kind of that sort of element of playing doesn't call for, it's not called for in that music, it kind of doesn't really work. But then saying that, like, you listen to some prog, like Rush or Yes, or so one of my favorite drummers is a guy called Matt Halpin, Periphery.
Yeah.
And that's, to me, that's very technical, very, very, very technical. And you listen to the songs, like there's not an intro, verse, chorus. It almost seems like one song is about 20 different sections, and what he's playing is kind of. But again, that music, the way he's playing and the way the songs are produced, that works for how he plays. So it's kind of, it's the scenario, I guess.
Of course, the thing for me is the big thing for me, and whether anyone else agree, actually, no, I think most people agree with this. But like you said, one, you play for the song. If that song requires you to be super technical, which again I can't do, but it's, if it requires, then do it. If it requires a standard 4/4, 4 on the floor, whatever it may be, solid groove, sound, do it. But the big thing is, are you enjoying yourself?
Yeah.
Because if you're not yourself, that will resonate to the crowd. And if you're sat there, with, a face like a slap backside, everyone's going to notice that. And this is the thing, like, regardless of how simple my parts were playing alongside like Tom and Dale, like Dale, one of, if not the best bass I've ever played with, and Tom, a phenomenal guitarist, a phenomenal frontman, and a great singer. For me, it was just holding it together. But for me, it was very much, drummers always seem to get lost at the back. You've always got like, your singer, if it's like just a singer and then a separate guitarist, your singer at the front, and it's not about having attention on you, but it's like, just enjoy yourself, let loose, and make people remember you as, okay, you're there to work as a team, as a unit, and as a band. But yeah, like, make people, like, people always remember the guitarist, like the good solos that they do, or how good the singer was, because oh my god, he hit those real high notes and he was amazing. And most people, like, they kind of overlook the drummer. And despite the fact, like I said, that most of the parts that I played were very simple, it was just, I've always said, if I could sing or I could play guitar, I would very much make use of a space on stage, depending on the size of a stage. As you know, being a drummer, you're glued to your seat.
Confined, yeah.
Not going anywhere, are you? It's, I mean, unless you're the drummer from Stop Stop and he brings his snare drum out.
Yes, with snare around, yeah, I know.
But it's make you, for me, it was very much just like, have fun and make use of the space that you've got. But for me, it was just about having fun. Like, I say it still is. It's just about having fun. Like, as serious as you want to take yourself and the band wants to take itself, why are you going on not having fun?
Yeah,
like, that for me is, the minute a band stops becoming fun, I'm not saying walk away from it, but I'm saying take a step back and reevaluate what you're doing, and maybe you can change things. But it's, for me, like, as long as having fun, like, that for me is the key ingredient, really.
And then the crowd has as fun as well. I mean, obviously, like, well, yeah, when I first saw you, so it was Winter's End 2018. as Bad Flowers. I don't think I'd actually seen you as Wolfjaw because we did that custom rock and blues gig,
Yes,
and that was that 2019, and I think you were still you definitely were. I think the Bad Flowers then. I think
was either a day later or a weekend later we went and played Steelhouse.
Yeah.
It might have been the same weekend. I can't remember, but yes. I
think it was actually. No, it was. I think because it was like on the Thursday or Friday in Derby, and then you went to Wales after.
That's it. Yeah, that's it.
And like obviously as a band we've kind of evolved and evolved. I say we've evolved and devolved. Evolved in respect of our music's a bit more like kind of it's a certain type, Americana or whatever, but devolved. What scaled down? So like that, like we're a 3-piece now. So
Yeah.
but the whole fun thing is you see bands like a good example. So I went with my best man at my wedding, Pat. I was in a band with him in Southampton, indie kind of editors, Brit poppy kind of stuff. Went to the Interpol, and again, Pat got me into Interpol. Really love them, very atmospheric, and I really like the music. And it's quite, like I say, it's quite dark. But Paul Banks and the guys, very, very serious on stage. The guitar player, I can't remember his name. He always plays like a big Gretsch, and he kind of does this Elvis thing where he like puts his knees together and does this weird sort of dance thing. It was a bit strange, but they're very, very serious, not kind of smirking. I guess sort of one of the best examples, like you watch the Hives, they're nuts and they're, they know they're not taking it serious, although, they are. But they're performing for the crowd, they want the crowd to kind of have fun and tell jokes or whatever. And it's kind of, I think, having fun, or the front man being that kind of performer in such a way that he can kind of, he connects with the audience, and then the audience connects with the band, and then you sort of tell jokes, you take the piss out. It's a difficult thing to do, because the kind of line between humor and kind of circus act humor, is a very sort of fine line. And being like, Tom was rest his soul, great front man, and it's I as much as being in front of thousands of people, whatever, you can do that, but just kind of almost you're there, almost you feel like maybe you're on your own, like kind of everyone's behind you, and you're kind of, I think it's quite, as a frontman, quite a lot of pressure, because you're not just like, say, rhythm guitarist or a lead guitar, you're you're a frontman. It's like, I don't know, in football you're the striker up front, and everyone's relying on you to score, or you got maybe 2 defence at the back and you're the goalkeeper, and it's like there's a lot of pressure to kind of live up to almost, and I kind of, not saying I don't envy front men, but I think it's a hard thing to do. Being able to play your instrument well, I think, is one thing, but being able to play your instrument and be a front man, woman, I think, it's quite a tough job. It takes a lot of discipline, adrenaline, and just kind of, I don't know, like, I think it's a difficult thing to do, and I don't think I could do it. I mean, I did for a bit, did singing, and I decided to stop because I thought, Pete's a great, like, musically he's really, really clever, and when he joined the band and stuff, me and Dave had to up our game and whatever, but he's very good. So I decided to drop singing and like focus on my drumming, and like the vocal harmonies are great. And I found that really difficult to do. Like Mastodon drummer, I can't remember his name, but he sings, and there's complicated, the drumming, it's prog really, sort of at the end of the day, and I'm like, I always found I was missing cues or whatever, and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna drum, just be the best drummer you can, and kind of
Well, this is it. I mean, like you said, I don't envy any frontman. Like, I consider myself to be quite confident in meeting people, talking to people. You can put me on stage in front of God knows how many people, and it doesn't faze me. Put a microphone in my hand, and I got to pop. I just got to pop. Like, I can't talk to a crowd through a microphone. I can't do it. I don't know why. I fall to pieces. And I think another reason I don't have a microphone in front of me is because I very much definitely cannot sing, which is why I play drums. I just stick. No, definitely cannot sing, and no one needs to hear that. It's just damaging to anyone. Even more for drums, it's just damaging. Like, no one needs to hear that.
So you kind of obviously, you sort of your journey and stuff, kind of how you've, how you say became at one with the drums, in a Bruce Lee kind of way. So, how would you say your kind of other inspirations, tastes, how sort of did they change? You were talking obviously about your dad. Dad or stepdad? Apologies.
Dad, yeah.
Dad,
Dad.
sorry. And you're talking about the music he listened to around you, and what do you vividly remember musically when you were young and thinking, shit, this is kind of, it's like you see Bonham, you go, oh, I want to be like him. What kind of did you listen to then, and sort of say to now, what's kind of how your
Well,
taste evolved?
so I mean, growing up, it was a lot of. I mean, my dad was a huge, well, still is, a huge Zeppelin fan. Like, always had Zeppelin on. So, I mean, obviously, when I started to play drums, probably not at the start. It probably wasn't until a bit later on. Because to be honest, my musical taste when I first started playing drums, so from the age of probably about 11, when I was at secondary school, probably up until about year 10. So, what are you there, like 15? I was very narrow-minded with my music tastes. It was always just, I mean, it was just like, I suppose, like nu metal, I guess. It was just like, Killswitch Engage, like, Disturbed, Trivial, like it, and I very much had blinkers on. I didn't listen to anything, even though my dad had like played me all this stuff when I was younger, and it's what I knew. I suppose the group of lads and girls that I used to hang around with, like, I got introduced to this sort of music, and I just had blinkers on, and I was just interested in that, and that was it. So it was a lot of like metal drumming, and that was like what I wanted to do. It wasn't until I was probably about 17 where me and a mate from school, a lad called Nick Harrison, who again is a fantastic bass player. He's from rugby. We left school and we basically started like a covers band, and it was just your typical like 60s, 70s, 80s like rock, blues, pub covers band. We'd go around rugby, maybe into Coventry, maybe into Northampton, Leicester, just playing pubs. The typical like 2 45-minute sets, that sort of. And it wasn't until then. So there was myself. There was a lad called Nick Harrison playing bass. There was a lad called Robert Barnett. He was a lot younger than us, but he is a phenomenal guitarist, and he's just, honestly, I'm going to give him a plug. Like, go onto his Instagram or onto his YouTube page. Like, his name's Robert Barnett, and he's just phenomenal. Like, he's just amazing. Like, just how he plays, and especially back then. So we were like, what, probably say 17. He was probably 15 at this point, and it was just, I mean, we'll put it this way: we had to like prove that he was in the band to get him into most of the pubs, because they were like, he's not coming in.
Yeah,
Like,
he's not even got a beard.
like, yeah, it was like, he's nowhere near old enough to be. It's like, yeah, but he's the guitarist. He needs to be there. They're like, no, he's not. We're like, no, seriously, he really is. Like, but seriously, his name's Robert Barnett. Like, check him out. He's very, very good. He's very like folky at the moment. Like, it's very like finger picking, like lead, like acoustic. Honestly, just I won't say any more about him, but just like go check him out. Like, he is a phenomenal guitarist. And then the singer, he was a lot older than us. Like, so, and he's still a very dear friend of mine. He was a friend of the family's. I mean, at the time, he was probably what, late 40s, early 50s, mid 40s maybe. But he basically was a family friend, and he'd always been a phenomenal singer. Had a great voice, and it suited the sort of music we were doing. And we just, like, it was a real. I don't really see him that much now, but a real pleasure just to be around. He was just like a really joyous man. Like, he was just a really nice person to be around, and just had a great voice. So we had this covers band, and it was great. But yeah, so my point was, like, so it wasn't until I joined this band and we started playing all these different styles of music that my blinkers from metal music kind of came off. And even though I still love to listen to it and maybe play it, I learned to play like a different style. Like, I wouldn't say a different style. I learned to play differently. It wasn't just about being as powerful and as loud or as fast. It was, you learn a lot. I mean, and the way that I learn really is by like listening. Like my theory on music and bands and back catalogues of bands is terrible. Like, and it's actually quite embarrassing, to be honest. You sit and talk to people, and they're like, "Oh, like so and so album from this year," and I'm like, "I ain't got a clue." But if I listen to it and I like it, yeah, great. I'll listen to it again. Like, I suppose it's kind of lazy, I guess. Like, I haven't really done my homework on anything that I listen to. I just, if I like it, I'll listen to it, and that's that. But that's just how I learned. I think it was just a case of if someone said, "Oh, we're going to learn," on the Deep Purple, Black Knight.
Yeah.
No worries. I'll like, and the thing is, I wouldn't even. I'd go away and listen to it on repeat, and then I'd come in and it was like, right, okay, I think I've got this, and I'd play it, and then it'd kind of evolve over a few rehearsals, and it'd get better, and it was like, okay, I'm happy with how I'm playing this. Is it exactly the same as the song? No, probably not, but it's near enough, and it's recognizable. As long as all like the stop starts and the fills are there about, it works. But yeah, like, so it very much started with like metal drummers, and then for me, and I still stick to this, Mike Portnoy, Dream Theater. Obviously he's now he's with like every project going, but I mean, I think he's with the Warrior Dogs more at the moment.
Yeah.
So he was definitely and still is like one of my biggest influences. And I think, again, it's weird to say that he's one of my biggest influences, yet I'm not a technical drummer. I think I was just in awe of how he played. And yes, he was technical, and I learned loads from him, but I think it was more how he was on stage. Like, not only how can you play that technical and be that much of an entertainer, but I think it was like that's probably where like my like entertainer side comes from, was because like he didn't just drum, he entertained as well. And then Bonham, I mean, I think any drummer, I mean, it's weird. I've actually read some threads online where people will slate Bonham, and that's their opinion, and no one can tell you what you shouldn't listen to, or what you should be inspired by. But for me, it was just his feel, like just his feel and the way he thought outside of the box that I absolutely loved. And then again, in no order, but my other like main inspiration was Dave Grohl.
Yeah.
I just loved his energy and just fucking how hard he hit the drums. I just loved it, like, and again, like, three kind of very different drummers, but at the same time I feel like they tie in very nicely to each other. But they're like my three kind of main ones. But then like I listen to other, again, it's really bad, like I'm a drummer myself and I can't even name some of the drummers, but like some of the bigger drummers, but I listen to like so many different bands where it's like, oh, that's really cool. And I don't necessarily ever just sit and listen to one drummer, because I did that when I was younger, and I found I was trying to be too much like that person.
Yeah.
So I don't try and pigeonhole myself. I just listen to what I want to listen to, what I enjoy, and pick pieces from here and from there. Like, that's kind of how I did it. But then another one, another drummer that I think is absolutely phenomenal, and so it's the drummer for Jared James Nichols, so Dennis Holm.
Yes.
Phenomenal drummer. Like, and I say, obviously with Bad Flowers, Wolfjaw, I spent a lot of time on the road with him, and just not only is he a great guy, but what a drummer! Like, he's just
he's very, very
everything I'd like to be in a drummer. Like, the fact that he's just a nice bloke, he's humble, but he's just solid. He's there to serve his purpose, and he's just
steady Eddie.
I mean, I'm maybe biased because we are good mates and stuff, and but he's just a great drummer. Like, very much, like, I used to love, like, I was lucky enough to go on the road with Jared and obviously Tom down and the lads and everyone numerous times, and it was just like, I used to love standing side and just watching him, whether it was or it wasn't, just everything he did, he executed just perfectly every single time, and just an absolute joy to watch him play.
I mean, when you was talking about the whole entertainer side, I would have thought you would have mentioned Keith Moon, because he was, obviously we all know he was nuts anyway, but just kind of, he was, I mean, the Who are, an entertaining band, but he was like, pulling silly faces and things like that. But I kind of thought, yeah, like you very much an entertainer as well as a good a good drummer, and kind of a bit like you. He thrashed the hell out of his drums, like sort of no other. But like, I mean, talking of say inspirations, I mean bands or whatever. I mean, like say musically, I think having a wide taste of music is say crucial. Like I'm not talking at people, but just I think listening to different genres of music helps you sort of develop an eclectic style of playing. Everything from like you listen to Motown, not even like listening to the drums and the playing, but you listen to like the production and just again you get into like what drums they used at the time, the wood, the heads, and and all the modern recording techniques. But so like for example, I love my late dad, bless him. His favorite was Buddy Holly, old rock and roll, and yeah, I love Buddy Holly. I've got the lyrics and the bit of the sheet music tattooed on me from Peggy Sue. Played that at his funeral, and yeah, love Buddy Holly. Jerry Allison's the drummer. Very simple, kind of almost jazzy, but then I love Slayer. I love Dave Lombardo. I can't play for shit like him. The speed, like double pedal. I can't. But talking of, there's one like Ringo Starr. I think is a great drummer. You can go over the whole joke of wasn't even the best drummer in the Beatles, but it was like a dig at I think it was a dig at McCartney, I think, at the time. But you listen to him. You listen to one of my favorite albums is Revolver, and you listen to probably most of the Beatles albums, and 9 times out of 10, he's playing with that hi hat really open, like open and crashy. And if you think like you're saying about tight on the money drums, you listen to like AC/DC, closed hi hat, very simple pattern, but that's the AC/DC sound. You kind of know it. But you listen to like Helter Skelter. I love that song. And it's some might say that's like the first kind of metal song of its time because it is quite heavy. And yeah, great drummer, great feel, and just maybe I don't know if you could call his drumming simple, but again, it's how he played served the albums. When they did Revolver, and when they kind of went on the old drugs and went for their trippy phase and everything, and then started putting guitars in. Obviously, the playing and the production changed, but again, kind of he played for the song. And I think he's a great drummer. But yeah, Bonham, the way I see him is and I can't do it anyway. What he can do with his single foot, I can probably only do with a double pedal. Talk about technique and things. I can't. It's like you listen to it over and over again. You repeat, how's he done that? How's he done that? And you're listening to it. And you go, you can't figure it out. You even look at it. You watch a video and you think, no, I don't know. Sorry, I'm stumped.
He's just magic to watch. He really is. He's just something else. Just the way that everything syncopates and everything he does follows or doesn't follow the music, but fits so well. It's like you said, there's things that he can do that I'm don't get wrong, many people can do, but like you've just said, I watch and think, how have you just done that? Like I don't get it. Like maybe in time with a lot of practice, you'll get your head around it. But and here's the thing: he sat and practiced for a long time to be able to do that. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's what it's about. But yeah, like when you first listen to anything that he plays on, it's just iconic. It's just the Bonham sound, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like rock and roll. You just like that opening bar. You go, yeah, it's Bonham. It's just you just know it. Or like Moby Dick, or everyone can try and imitate, but no one will ever be able to play how we played. I mean, again, talking of practice, I think I don't know about you, but I used to have an electric kit in my old house I had in Southampton, but I just didn't play it enough, and I don't have one now. So practice is kind of something I wish I could do more. I mean, you can do things, rudiments, or whatever on a practice pad, but I don't know. You need the kind of the full kit. But when I interviewed a guy called Adam Box, who's the drummer for Brothers Osborne, again, favorite band of mine. We were talking about like warm-ups and stuff before shows. He's like, no, I don't warm up, and I was like, okay, the next time I speak to you, we've got to both say, yeah, we warmed up before a show. And sometimes I don't do it, like stretches or whatever. And I've noticed when I haven't, say, I don't know, stretched my fingers, my hands, wrists, or whatever, you kind of go at 100% from the first song, and then you start cramping. Oh, I'm knackered already. So warming up and practice is quite like football. You don't go to, you can't play a football game, and not go to like team training. But yeah, that's something I at some point is have an electric kit and just be able to practice more, because like I said, you can just listen to all this stuff, become better, your technique, your stamina, power. But then saying that, in terms of like practice and how Bonham played, how powerful he was, sometimes it's what you don't play as well. What's kind of impressive
Absolutely.
is kind of,
Yeah.
and Dave in the band, in light and shade, it's again the kind of knowing when you've got that moment to step it up a gear, and a moment to kind of completely take it back. Almost kind of say like you're not playing, but just really kind of, if you're doing, I don't know, there's one song we do called "Send Some Whiskey Home," and it's very country song, but it's it's a love song, and it's kind of quite laid back. So I've got like a stick and a shaker in my hi-hat hand, my right hand, and it just kind of, you kind of add just a different flavor. You've got to have dynamics in your playing, otherwise, I don't know, there are some bands or whatever where the drums and the music, it's all the kind of same volume, same speed, which is fine. Like a lot of stoner rock is pretty similar, but again, it's just the dynamics, and that gives you the kind of almost the kind of journey, if you like, of the song, and then I guess you can appreciate all the different members of the band. You could have somebody like, I don't know, Satriani or whatever, how bloody talented he is at making all those sounds, but it's important to have a good rhythm section. And as I said, Dale's a phenomenal bass player, a great drummer, and you've got a good rhythm section, then gives the front man an easy job.
Definitely. Right, I'm going to move inside, mate, because at the moment it looks like you're talking black screen.
Yeah.
I've realised it's gone very dark. So I'm
Very
going to
quickly.
keep.
Yeah. No worries. I can edit stuff out. So no.
It's very much. It's. I watched a video a long time ago, where it was very much. Do you know the drum beat from Billie Jean?
Yeah.
It was. I watched this video, and it was basically about that drum beat, and it was. You can play, which is probably the first drum beat most drummers learn, but you can play it in so many different ways that it sounds so different. And like you said, it's about adding different flavors and dynamics to your playing that will make a song feel different. And I think you're right. It's again, going back to talking about Dane, it's, playing for the song. You can play the same drum beat and make it sound so different in so many different ways, just by opening a hi-hat slightly or fully, or just how you're hitting your hats or your snare or your however it is. It's all just to do with what the song needs, and how you want your song as a band to sound and come across on the record or live or whatever it may be. So
I don't know if you agree with this statement. It's no statement, or my proposal. I don't know if that's the right word, but I think there is a difference between being guitarist, drummer, and being a musician. So I don't know if you feel that's a kind of an accurate statement. Like, go on. What do you think of that? A drummer and a musician, drummer musician, and just a drummer are two different things entirely.
I mean, from experience, especially from playing with Tom and Dale with Bad Flowers, Wolfjaw, I wasn't a musician. I was always the butt of the joke. It was like, you're a drummer, you're not a musician. But I always think, do you know what? Like, if I was, so for instance, they had a drummer before me who could only play at one volume, at one tempo, and basically they said only ever really played the same sort of like drum pattern over and over and the same fills and stuff. I wouldn't say drummers aren't musicians, because you've got to understand the musicality of what your bass player and your guitarist is doing to be able to fit your drum parts into that piece of music. So, I mean, from a humour side, to bring Tom and Dale into it, yeah, it was very much, no, I wasn't a musician. It was just, you're a drummer, you sit at the back and hit the pots, and that's that. But I kind of think, do you know what, like, if you've got a drummer that doesn't understand what the music needs, or you do have a drummer that understands what the music needs, that's where the difference lies, I think. That's, for me, what constitutes being a good drummer. I'm not saying that I'm a good drummer, but I'm saying that's what is constituted. You need to understand what your song as a band needs. You know, because if they say, oh, you know, I'm going to play this drum beat to this riff, this rhythm that you're playing, but it's completely out of context to actually how the song is, it's not going to sound right. There's got to be some sort of musical understanding of what that song needs as to what you're then going to deliver as a drummer.
Yeah, it's a bit like, I guess, you see a covers band or something, and you can tell they're individual musicians playing as opposed to like a band. You know, it's kind of, I guess, say having the musical intellect, the kind of maturity to, like you said, understand and pay attention to what's going on, especially like in a live environment. You know, it's basically, you know, as a drummer, you kind of, you've got to provide the backbone, the rhythm, but at the same time, you know, vocally or you know, guitars, you know, like kind of following where something might be going, because you feel like, okay, as much as you know when you need to take it up a notch to a certain section of the song, the guitar player might be like, okay, he might be want to be doing, you know, upping something, and you'd be like, okay, right, and you gotta follow it. But yeah, it's quite, like, a difficult thing, because like I think especially as a you know, when you're younger, you want, as a drummer or whatever guitar player, you want it to be about you, you know. But like, so understanding the dynamics of music, the band, just understanding how everything fits together. You know, again, playing as a team, you can't be Ronaldo and just don't pass the ball, just, you know, score. You know, you've got to understand that everyone has a part to play, and with those parts,
it's you're all on stage together. You're all in that music studio or rehearsal room together, and you've all got the same. Well, I'd like to think you've all got the same goal in mind, right? Which, let's face it, is writing a song that you think is going to be considered, you know, a good song, whether that song's on radio or, you know, be your biggest hit or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And I've been in bands where I've had, you know, there's been bands where there's been two guitarists or one guitarist or whatever it may be, or I've been in bands where, whether it is bass player, guitarist, rhythm guitarist, lead, whatever it may be, they're trying to outshine the rest of the band. And I'm kind of like, no, if you write a song correctly, not correctly because there's no correct way to write a song, but if you do it in a way that you all get your time to shine, but you're not outplaying or overplaying each other, it'll work. Like, you know, if there's a time where I just need to sit back and just play a nice groove, but there's a break in the song where I can put in a real nice fill that breaks into a nice guitar solo, then do it. But whilst said guitarist is breaking out doing this lovely, you know, melodic, you know, soulful guitar solo, I ain't going to be sitting at the back throwing like a ton of drum fills in, unless you're going to syncopate like a drum fill with a guitar like lead run, then maybe. But if that guitarist off, you know, having a whale of a time, like ripping out this solo, I'm just going to be sat at the back playing along with the bass player, holding the groove. You know, you don't overplay when someone's got their time to shine. Sit back and let them do that, because your time will come. And it's not about being the best person in the band. It's about being the best band, or, you know, what you consider the best band, or, you know, being the best your band can be.
Yeah, because it impacts how, I guess it impacts like perception. Like if you're just constantly showing off, it causes a very big sort of a disparity between how everything should sort of should fit together. But I think, I said, I think it's an age thing and a maturity thing. Definitely. I mean, I don't know how long you've got. Obviously, we've been going for hour 10, so I don't want to obviously keep you too long. But when you brought in the camera in the house and I saw those wooden beams, I went, "Oh, that's my dream." Wooden beams, cottage, Cornwall. That's my dream.
No, I've got a bit more time, mate. I've got a bit more time.
One thing that I think kind of I find very interesting is kind of people's first concert that they kind of remember, concert, festival. What was the first concert that you remember going to as a young nipper?
My dad took me to see. I can't remember if it was Killswitch Engage or Disturbed. I think my first concert was Disturbed. I was 14, and my dad took me to Rock City in Nottingham.
Yeah.
It was a venue that he spent a lot of time in his youth going to, like to see a lot of bands. It's a venue that we still both go to now regularly to see bands. And it's one of those venues for me that I've been asked many times in different interviews and just in a social situation. People say, what's the dream venue? And obviously most people will say, oh, I'd love to play Wembley or this or wherever else. For me, it was like, where could you play tomorrow if you could never play again? And it'd be main stage Rock City. It really would. I think it's more a personal thing. It's not like, it's not the biggest venue in the world, but it's just a lot of iconic bands have played there. And I think for me, it's personal in the sense of it's a place my dad loved to go. It's a place that me and my dad shared a lot of memories in.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think to get the chance to walk out onto that stage would be just a big bucket list moment for me, really.
Yeah, I've never been there for a gig. I know what it looks like and stuff. I never played it. Did Rescue Rooms. That's quite a cool venue.
Yeah, that's a cool place. Yeah.
But Rock City, yeah. Wembley. Now, my bucket list. A couple of venues. I'd love to play the Roundhouse in Camden, just because I've seen everyone from Interpol to the Cadillac 3 to who else have I seen? Can't remember, but I've just the sound there is amazing. I've never had a bad sound there. I just think such a great venue, and it's amazing. I'd love to play the Brixton Academy because my first proper metal gig. I saw Machine Head at the Guild once in Southampton, but the sound there is always a bit dodgy. But it was Slayer, Children of Bodom, Lamb of God. And that was my first proper brutal metal concert. And again, Brixton Academy. It's just an amazing venue. But yeah, Wembley. I mean, stadiums. I don't know. I saw my first concert was 1992, Michael Jackson Dangerous World Tour. That was my first concert. I always forget the name of the drummer for Michael Jackson. Amazing player. But yeah, remember watching
Sugarfoot.
That. Huh?
I don't know his actual name, but he goes by, I can't remember his first name, but someone Sugarfoot they call him, don't it?
But he's very, very, beyond talented. But that concert I remember, and I like Michael Jackson, but I went with my dad. It was me, a guy called Alexander from school, his mum, my mum and dad. I can't remember, but then completely kind of, I guess, explains, but my sort of musical variance in terms of what I like. One of the first concert me and my dad ever went to, and this was, I can't remember how, 2 or 3 years before he passed, we went to see Travis. I used to be a super fan, but I still quite like him, at the Hammersmith Apollo. Actually, that's quite an iconic venue because that's had anyone that's been everyone. But yeah, I remember we saw Travis, and that was a really, really good gig. And that's quite a cool venue. But yeah, Michael Jackson. Yeah, I don't know. People obviously of a different generation who like first concerts like Taylor Swift and Miley Cyrus, but yeah, Michael Jackson was obviously the old Wembley. It was, from what I remember, it was bloody brilliant. But I've seen like Muse at Wembley, obviously the new Wembley, and that's But yeah, Michael Jackson. You listen to like just the music, any album, Dangerous, you know, or you listen to like when he did, was it Heal the World? That was not say. I'm not like the biggest Michael Jackson fan, but just kind of, I kind of personally felt. Obviously, he went through a different personal journey, but yeah, like Beat It, Bad, Billie Jean, you know, those kind of classic songs. Just musically, they're so well put together. It's a bit like ABBA. I mean, I know it sounds a bit of a, what's the word? Uh, you know, you've always got your kind of joker card, you know, in the music you like. But ABBA, I grew. I mean, my dad was one of his favourite bands. I remember. I think was it the first girlfriend that he met. He had ABBA playing in the car, and I can't remember how old I must have been, like 17, 18, and I was really embarrassed. I was like, "Fuck's sake," you know, put on the Beach Boys or something. But he had ABBA on. But actually, when you listen to ABBA, the arrangement of the songs, the play, they're actually very complicated songs. I thought, it's just pop bollocks, you know, Swedish pop bollocks. But actually, all of them very, very, very talented. And musically, the songs were quite complicated. Bit like, I guess, like Fleetwood Mac. They're, you know, great band. But yeah, their songs were quite, yeah, complex. But
Yeah. I mean, I can't say I've ever in depth listened to any like ABBA songs, but the fact that you've said that some of them are quite complicated, I'm now going to go away and listen to just see how complicated they are.
listen to Does Your Mother Know That You're Out? Because the band Ash, I don't know, do you remember them? Ash?
Yeah.
They did a cover of it, and I was like, "This is a fucking great song," but you know, found out it wasn't theirs. It was ABBA's, and that's like a good pop song. Like, what makes a good pop song? If you think of all like the typical, I'm not talking of like Robbie Williams pop. Take that pop. I'm talking Beatles, effectively. Pop music. I don't know, but yeah, ABBA, a pop band, and like to have a song, you know, effectively, like imagine a song that's timeless, that you can listen to it, you know, 50 years from now, and you think, you know, a great song. I mean, obviously, a lot of, I don't know, like say Ed Sheeran, like, you know, some songs are written for him or whatever, but yeah, some of the best songs, ones you just, I don't know, like. That sounds really. I'm going to mention Travis again, but Why Does It Always Rain on Me? I'll know that song bloody 10, 20 years down the line. Very simple song, but yeah, it's like, you know, yeah, uh, it's a song that stands the test of time.
It's catchy, mate. It's
Yeah,
got its hook, and that is what pop is. It's got that
mm,
hook,
but not
and
pop
it's
as in
relatable.
pop music, but popular music. You know,
Yeah.
Welcome to the Sweet Child of Mine. It's not my favorite gun, but or Welcome to the Jungle. You listen to that, you go, yeah, you know, it's a classic song. But here's a question, and this is talking about, again, sort of musical, not necessarily how you play, but your appreciation and understanding, I guess, for music and like arrangements. Have you ever been to like a classical concert, or have you ever listened? Probably you have, but like classical music at all?
I've never been to a classical concert, but I can remember being with my dad. We were in London somewhere, and for the life of me, I can't remember where exactly it was. But we'd gone in, and it was like a musical showcase. And we went into this room, and there was like, I don't know, probably like 30 chairs. It kind of felt like you were in assembly in school. And you were sort of like sat down on these chairs, and like there was like a drum kit set up, and there was a guitar, bass, and it was all on their stands. And all of a sudden, these 3, 4 like old boys, like they were like old, like well, they were old men. They had all like grey slick back hair. They all came out in tuxedos, and they sat down. Well, the drummer sat down. The rest of them sort of like stood there, and they literally played everything. And I mean from classical right through to death metal. They were like, in their 70s, and they played every style of music you can imagine. Now, talking about classical, you watch them play that sort of stuff, and is it something that I'd necessarily listen to now? Probably not. But to watch them play that was just mind blowing, which it just gives you like a different. I mean, the thing is like you listen to any sort of like heavy rock band or metal band or whatever it is you listen to, it comes from classical. Like
Yeah,
you
yeah.
listen to like a lot of classical stuff. Like, okay, it's not like all like shreddy guitars and heavy, but you've got that dark side of classical music, which later on transcends into that sort of like heavy metal, heavy rock. And again, like to touch on one of my influences, like Dream Theater, you know, they're all classically trained, and when you break that down, it's classical music just played either really quickly or you know whatever it is. You know what I mean? That's what it is. And it's the thing is, back then classical was like when it came around was many years ago. Obviously, there wasn't effects and this and that, and that's what it was. And that heavier side of the classical was, say, transcended into that heavier side of what we've got now, except from we can put effects on guitars and we can put on anything, on your voice, on your drums, whatever it may be. Obviously, technology and times have changed, but it's very impressive. And to be honest, I couldn't tell you. I mean, you've got your main composers.
Yeah.
It's not something I would listen to by choice, but there's times where I think, do you know what? I just wanted to, if I couldn't sleep, for instance, you know, I'd put something on my phone that was like classical music. And again, couldn't tell you the name of the piece, couldn't tell you what it was, who it was by, and when it was composed. But it's just very impressive. And it can be either very calming or it can be
intense,
uplifting. Or it can be very intense. Yeah. You know, that's what I love about music. It can there's a different piece of music for every kind of mood, and it just goes to show that music very much links to how a person is feeling when they've wrote that song, because that's how they're expressing themselves. You know, it's just impressive.
It's like when you a good example is when Metallica did that S&M album, that live album, and they were backed by a classical orchestra. A lot, I mean, from then a lot of bands have done it, but it's kind of like how a very antiquated, I'm not using that word as in it's very old and it's had it, but like a very early style of music and how that integrates with, like I said, you know, with modern you know, rock music, because like you said, it's just I guess the intensity, the serenity of some pieces, you know, in classical music, it does, like I said, it is translated very much into pretty much any song, like the blues, for example. That's, you know, blues scales or whatever. That's pretty much in any sort of song. But I'd say I'd highly recommend. It was a long time ago. A friend called Ed Burrell, who I went to school with. Like one of the like I didn't know much about French horn, but he was very good. And like a brain hemorrhage one day. I think I came back from a concert he'd done, and but he took me to my first proms at the Albert Hall, and we did the first night and we did the last night, and they kind of do some very I can't remember the names, but very stereotypical classical songs almost. They'll play them for they'll play them in jest in respect of that kind of. It's a song that everyone would know, and they kind of take the piss a bit. But I remember he got me into, but like a composer called Stravinsky, and I always remember it. A piece called Rite of Spring. Can't remember how it goes, but I remember the song or the piece. And a composer called Shostakovich. Can't remember the piece, but the intensity, the enormity of an orchestra, like. You've obviously got your high-pitched instruments, your low-pitched, you've got your percussion, your wind instruments, your brass. But, like, it's like when you've got a massive crescendo and the timpanis, the timpani player's really going for it. You've got a really kind of almost intense kind of violin. Like, I don't know, it's kind of... It's almost like
it
in a horror film.
It makes you feel...
Yeah, it conveys a certain emotion. You feel like connected to it. And honestly, if you get to go to like a big orchestra, like a big concert, it's phenomenal. I knew fuck all about, you know, this, that, and the other. He'd be like, oh, he's doing that, he's doing that. This is this part. I'd be like, he's playing it louder, you know. But yeah, having an appreciation for classical music is, like I said, I can't read sheet music, but just classical music is so. Or even like film scores. I love Hans Zimmer. Like, have you seen Inception?
I haven't, no.
But Hans Zimmer, look him up. He is such a phenomenal composer. Again, he's quite dark, a film score's got to be epic, but again, a very epic composer. He's worked with like Trent Reznor from Nine Inch Nails. Again, Trent Reznor is a great composer, great musician. But yeah, Hans Zimmer is kind of almost like metal music, but for film scores. It's just got this real intense kind of You got to listen to it. Like I said, you put your headphones on, it's like, oh my god, the soundscape is just so broad, and it's almost like, you know, you're trying to comprehend the universe and everything beyond. His film scores are kind of like that. You're trying to listen to everything else that's going on, and it takes you on this journey beyond like the galaxy. This kind of, yeah, you kind of lose yourself in this soundscape, and yeah, honestly, hands down, the film score for Inception is phenomenal.
I'll have to have a listen to that, mate, because that sounds very interesting.
Yeah, I don't know, sounded like a bit of a Star Trek geek or something, like Beyond the Galaxy. A couple of things, sort of, say to finish, sort of to give people like an idea of, I guess, you know, how much you're into drums. I know you play a BDC kit, and you have been for, I think, for quite a while. Just we'll touch just sort of technically on things. So tell me your setup. Tell me a setup. Why you've got the BDC kit? Why you kind of use what you use now?
So the BDC kits I've got. So I use a 24 by 16 bass drum.
Big drums. Yeah.
Well, I actually initially I wanted the 26 by 14. But my artist rep at the time basically spoke me out of it. He said, I understand why you want it. He said, but can I suggest you go for a 24? He says, you'll still get that big low end punchy kind of boomy sound you want from a 26. He said, but it's also more versatile. He says, you know, you can tune it up nicely so it can still be quite like tight as well. It's very versatile. And
Yeah.
he was right. I can get whatever sound I want from that just by adjusting the heads. So then from there, I've then got my one. Also, I play bass, one rack tom, 2 floor. So my rack tom is 14 by 12, and then 2 floors. I've got 16 16s and 18 16.
Yeah.
And then I've got 2 snares from them. So I've got the Merlin, which is just a beautifully.
You say Merlin?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a beautifully crafted drum. Just looks amazing. This is what I like about BDC. They just look.
Yeah, they look fancy. So like the Palladium hardware, you know, it's very Art Deco.
Yeah, just beautiful drum kits to look at. So yeah, I've got the Merlin, and then I've recently, probably the last couple of months, got myself a Bluebird.
It's a steel drum, is it? It's a steel drum?
Yeah, it's chrome over brass.
Okay, right. Maybe I'm thinking of the Aviator. I can't remember.
Maybe I think it's chrome over brass. I think it's chrome over brass. I think.
Okay.
But it's fucking it's heavy. It's really heavy, but it's loud, and it's so much attack. But just beautifully designed. They look amazing. They sound incredible.
What's the wood of the kit you got? Is it? It's not birch, is it?
It's mahogany, and I think it might be birch and mahogany.
Okay, like combination, yeah.
I can't remember I genuinely can't remember. But again, just very, very warm. Again, like very like powerful drums, but just very warm. Like, it's hard to describe. They're just
quite rich sounding.
Yeah, they just sing. They're just really, really nice drums to play. They sing really nice. They're really easy to tune as well. Like really easy to tune. But then that also helps because I use Code drum heads, and I've just found they've been just incredible to use.
Do you use coateds, clears on your toms and
coated? Yeah. So I use coated all on my toms. I use the Blast bass drum batter head. And
snare heads. What do you use?
I used to use the Sterling.
Have you got the TRS now? The kind of shiny almost head.
Yeah, almost. Yeah. So it's like it's almost like the what's the head called? Do you know the Rebo head?
Yeah.
It's black dot on it.
Yeah, the reverse dot. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that, but obviously it's Code, and
I
prefer it.
See, I've used the Sterling for a long time, but you're a hard hitter, so DRS is kind of a bit more suited. But
Yeah.
the coated Tom has it with generators, or they law.
No, they're generators.
Do you, and so this just no, let's say not so you can get technical, but your resonant heads, do you use coated or are they clear?
They're clear. They're the double R's, the ones that have got built-in dampeners.
Yeah.
That in itself is just amazing. Like, just so easy to tune. And I was working with a producer in a local lad. He's a young lad. His name's Ellis, and he's coming up through the ranks, and he's doing really, really well. He's worked with a numerous like sort of a different sort of collective worth of artists. So he's worked and produced a lot with like Barry Tomorrow.
Oh, nice.
I just worked with Dappy. He's also worked with I can't think of their name now. It's gone, but yeah, he's worked with some good names. And like one of the projects like we're working in a year or so ago, he started. I got my kit in, and he went, "Do you mind if I tune your kit?" And I was like, "Yeah, okay."
Yeah.
Like, I think it sounds pretty good, but like, absolutely, like, go for it. And he said, "No, it's like it sounds fine. Like, what you've done with it sounds great, but I've learnt this new technique." And like, basically, I think he'd been working with Dan Weller, I think it is, producer. And he basically taught him this technique of like tuning it, but like not by ear, but like by piano.
Yes, yeah.
And honestly, it just he did that and he tuned it that way. And he'd been on it for probably a good 2 hours doing like each head, like just meticulously. He was just on it. And my God, like I thought I got my kit sounding nice, but when just something else. And obviously that's down to his knowledge and knowing what he was doing, but then it also complements how those drums are made. Like they just sing. They are just beautiful. So yeah, I mean, I've been endorsed for them for a while, and I've been very lucky, to be honest, with all of my endorsements, because again, obviously after Tom passed, to be honest, I kind of thought, and this is no reflection on any of the companies that I work alongside, but I kind of thought they're not going to want to keep me on, because if I'm not in a project that's in people's faces,
I know what you mean.
You know, that kind of defeats the object of being an endorsee, right? Like, it doesn't make sense. So obviously I spoke to each one of my artist reps and explained the situation, and it just goes to show how much, like, I mean, they're all people at the end of the day, but it just goes to show how kind and just how they're all just really nice people, because they were all like, look, you've gone through what you've gone through, and it's not your fault, and I've been very lucky that they've all kept me on.
Yeah, they're businessmen, but they're also human at the same time.
Well, this is the thing, and it's not like I've screwed anyone over or I've just gone, nah. Obviously, anyone that knows the story knows. So yeah, like there's nothing I could do about it. It wasn't like I chose to walk away, and say I was very lucky, and I still consider myself very, very lucky to be a part of the families that I'm in. So. So yeah.
No, I mean, the whole Phil Campbell thing is very weird. Weird's the wrong word, but like how it sort of like happened, and kind of like even to be honest, even to this day, I consider like very privileged and lucky to have the opportunity that we had, but at the same time, the circumstances around it, it just kind of, there's no way to even look at it. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of, yeah.
Look, mate, the thing is I understand. So the words you've just used, I agree with. I understand that they were taken differently at a certain time. Yeah, and that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, they were. Yeah.
But anyone in any situation that didn't have that show, that tour, whatever it may be, that was then presented with that opportunity,
you would feel very lucky. Of course you would.
Yeah.
Okay. And here's the thing, like when you say we're lucky, you're not saying it from like a gloating point of view where you're like, oh
Yeah,
well,
which
this
at
person's
that
now
time it
gone
could have been
and
taken.
I'm
Yeah,
now very lucky. That's not how it comes
Yeah.
across. Like I know when you said that.
yeah, and it would never
That's
was
not
meant to be.
exactly what
Yeah,
But here's the thing, like anyone, whether it was you or the next band, and the next band, and the next band, would all feel like, okay, it's really sad and tragic what's just happened. But my God, we were lucky. We were in the right place at the right time. We've been asked to do this. Like, it was a weird time, mate. It was a really weird time for many different reasons. It was, obviously, not only did we, I say we, me, Dale, lose our best mate, we lost a career that we've been building for God knows how long.
time. Yeah,
I mean, the thing is, the big thing of it is that we lost our best mate. Many people lost someone they knew because of music, because they knew him from work or family, or they just knew who he was for whatever reason. But just like any other band that was given the opportunity would say, yeah, we're lucky to be in this situation. It's life, and anyone
life, yeah,
in the music industry, as much as everyone's friends, it is dog eat dog. Like, you want to help everyone out, but when your booking agent goes, right, okay, so this has just happened, this news has just come in, and everyone's like, it's tragic, but here's the thing, you need a replacement. You need a replacement. It's as simple as, there's no two ways about it. Like, when a promoter has got dates to fill and a band drops out,
they got a job to do.
big or small, they need to replace it. It might, some people might say, oh, well, that's heartless, they were supposed to be on that tour and he's no bollocks. Like, it's a business. Like, and as long as it's handled respectfully, which that whole situation was, by everyone involved, there's nothing to I could go off on a tangent about
I think like through losing various friends and my parents, it's kind of, especially at the time, things are very sore, very raw, almost at the highest level, and even years down the line, they still are. Like, I mean, I openly, I think when I did my thing with Dane, watch it if you want, but what I mean is, when I say watch it if you want, it's kind of, I think the first couple of things I spoke about was like depression and stuff, and some people not do think, but think it's possible, like an attention seeking thing. Like, I've played, what was it? I played a festival in Love Rocks. You've heard of it, I think, you're down in Verwood, Bournemouth way, and played a gig. I didn't think I played very well. Came off and I was just a bit miserable. And this couple, I can't remember their names, but I do know. And they're like, "Oh, what's wrong? You played an amazing gig." And I was like, "It was all right. I was a bit shit," sort of thing. And I was like, "Oh, but it happens, blah blah." And I said, "Well, but why are you like so sad, not sad, but like, why are you blah, blah, blah? You're in an amazing band. You're in such a privileged position, because I mean, being in a band, it is quite a privileged thing to do, and like, you get to go on extraordinary journeys, and through being in the band that I'm in, I've made a lot of friends, and as much as I don't know you're a good person,
just friends,
and I was like, well, and I was like, I said, just because I'm in a band and you can go on stage, forget about everything, and just and you're in that moment. I was like, yeah, I'm just, and I explained the situation, like, so my mum passed in 2006. She was like 50 fucking, oh bugger, 58, I think. Yeah, Dad was 70 when he passed in 2013. Anyway, and I said, look, yeah, it still affects me. It's not saying it shouldn't. Like, I've done counselling, therapy, take tablets. But like, It's really weird. Like, and I've tried to explain this to a couple of people who've got depression for various reasons. Like, there's no pattern. Like, okay, this is, I like my analogy, but put it this way. Bakewell tart slices, they're one of my favorite things. I love cake, but Bakewell slices are one of my favorite things. But if you imagine, you start off with a set of ingredients, and at the end of the day, at the end of that production line, that Bakewell tart is going to come out exactly the same, pretty much. Millions of Bakewell tarts is going to come out the same at the end of the day. And I said, depression isn't a fixed thing in terms of you don't always feel sad every day. You don't feel happy every day. It's not like, okay, 4 days of the week I have depression, and then the other 3 days or whatever I give depression like the day off. It's kind of, I personally anyway find it circumstantial. I could have a shit day at work. I work in produce, and where there's shit, up and down, and that can affect how crop grows. Blah blah. I won't bore you with it. And yeah, that can really like my day. Even like, this sounds really, really stupid, and it's not stupid, but it does sound stupid. So I can be watching a film, right? Someone dies in it, or what was it? What's the film we were watching? Someone loses their dad, and like the situation was kind of similar to mine in kind of how quickly it happened, and anyway, and that will make me not like feel depressed, but like it will kind of trigger me a bit. So I think that's the thing that, so yeah, it is like circumstantial. But like I said, sometimes I wake up and I feel awful. I don't necessarily know why. Like, subconsciously, I'm not choosing to feel like that. You just wake up and you feel shit. But sometimes you wake up and you feel absolutely great. Could be pissing it down with rain outside, but kind of, you can't kind of really start to start rationalizing it. But yeah, and I said to Dane, I suffer from depression, blah blah blah. I had some difficult years when parents passed, and blah blah. But it's something that I have, and it's not even like something I like. When I say like I love to talk about, I don't love to talk about it, but it's just kind of something that I don't mind admitting.
Yeah, but here's the thing, mate. It's really good that you do talk about it.
It's difficult because a lot of people don't, and it's a stigma, I think, as well.
I don't know if lucky again is the right word to say, but I've never found myself in a situation where I've gone through depression, so to speak. But you take the Tom situation.
Yeah,
that was hard work, mate. Like, it was hard, like really hard. And I got through that by talking about it, and I was very lucky that I had people in my life that I could talk to about it. And there's one thing that I always say, if we were just 3 lads that were mates that used to meet up at the pub, once every fortnight and have a chat, there'd be no photos, there'd be no videos, there'd be nothing. But because we were in a band for as many years as we were, I have got thousands of photos, backstage photos no one's ever seen before.
Yeah,
thousands. I can go onto YouTube and type in interview with Tom and Karl and Dale from Wolfjaw, and I can hear his voice. Yeah, I've got the music that I can sit and listen to and reminisce. Bloodstock happened last weekend, and it just so happened that Bloodstock was our last ever show, and it just so happened that we were one of the bands that were handpicked out to have our whole set recorded. The last set we ever played as a 3 is recorded, and it's on YouTube, and I've got it on a memory drive. Just little things, I've got that. And maybe I had a touch of depression like through dealing with like what I had to deal with, but I've come out the other side, and I wouldn't say I'm depressed, but if you used to come to my house, there's a lot of like Wolfjaw memorabilia on the walls, photos. Again, I'll give someone else a shout out. If anyone's into art, there's a guy who lives up Glossop called Deggy. He's the bass player from
he's really good.
Fantastic artist. He's done me a piece of Tom.
I think I might have seen it. It's yeah.
And that photo was actually a photo of Tom sat on the back of the van just before we went on stage at Download. And there's days, again, like you said, there's days where I wake up, and most days I wake up and I feel absolutely great. But there's days that I wake up and I can look at a photo, whether it's on the wall or in my house or whatever it may be. I can be driving to work and a song can come on, and
that'll just trigger it, yeah.
But the thing is, it could be for the day, it could be for 10 minutes, it could be for an hour. There's many a time, and I'm not ashamed to admit, and no bloke should be, I've sat in my van and sobbed for an hour because a song's come on, you know, and it just makes you think. And, you know, like, let's face it, I miss him. You know, many of us miss him. And it's not just me. There's many people that have lost very close people that, you know, I think everyone on the planet probably misses someone because of, you know, of that.
Yeah.
And people need to realize depression is real. And okay, maybe I don't suffer with depression, but like I said, there can be little triggers that can set people off, and it's okay to feel that way, whether it's for 5 minutes, an hour, or for 5 days. You know, it's okay to feel that way. You know, no matter what you're going through. It's like you know, like the saying goes, it's okay not to be okay.
Yeah, okay, exactly. I was exactly going to say that, and it's true. Doesn't make you any less of a man. Some might say it makes you more of a man, but yeah, you know,
No, I wouldn't say that. I think it just makes you human. It's not about being a man. It just makes you human. Yeah, everyone feels. I don't care whether you're a male, female, however you want to identify. You know, whatever it is. You know, however, we're all human, and we all have feelings. I don't care whether you suppress them, you let them out, or you know, you're the hardest bloke, woman on the planet that's got no feelings. I'm sorry, no, but you feel. Yeah, at some point when that door closes, you know, that act comes off, you feel. Everyone does. Simple as.
Yeah. No, as I said, it's you can't quantify depression, or you know, you can't put an end date on it. You know, you can't. You know, depression hasn't got a like I said, it hasn't got a fixed period. But like I said, it's just one of those things. You know, I've noticed when I've I think like I've sort of not taken tablets, or I've run out, and of like 1 or 2 days, I'm get snappy. You know, not angry, just snappy, and you know, different.
You just go through a bit of a dip.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's like, you know, I might wean off one day, but it's just kind of they help. And you know, because life is, you know, some people have lives more difficult than others, but you know, life can be tough. You know, whatever, you know, like I said, the day throws at you. Like I said, you could be going to work, something goes wrong, you do something wrong, something goes tits up. You know, it puts you off for your day, this, that, and the other. But at the end of the day, and I do that. This one thing, some therapist counsellor I saw, and this was years ago. And what she basically said is, start a day saying what you're grateful for, and close the day basically the same things, or close the day with what you had, what was good in the day or bad, or you know. And like, for example, like say the simple things, you know, saying being thankful for, you know, your existence, being thankful for your family, your friends, your job, all, you know, all those things. And you know, basically being lucky to have things that other people don't have, and all that stuff. And I think it does like make a difference. It kind of, you almost, what you're trying to do, or what I'm trying to do, is trying to set the tone for the day. I could be going, right, I feel great, have a shit occurrence at work, I don't know, I'm going to bore you, I'm sorry, but like, I don't know, can't send any tender stem broccoli to this customer because the weather's shit and the broccoli's not growing, blah 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 blah. Anyway, but it's like, it's life, it happens, it's veg, kind of, no one's got a gun to your head. It's, you know, it's how, it's kind of like how you, you know, you roll with the punches, and how you, you know, the only certainty in life is death, as much as that's kind of like a morbid thing. And how I used to think celebrating someone's death, well, you're not celebrating their death, you're celebrating their life, but how, you know, celebrating in a moment of sadness or whatever, it's very two polar opposite kind of emotions that you're trying to, you know, it's like you've got celebration and someone dying, and it's like two, you know, it's like a positive and a positive on a magnet, and you're trying to connect those two together, but you know, they just repel. But anyway, you know, enough of that. So just to
it's true. Like I watched this video with a motivational speaker, and this guy had a guy on a go with him, and he said to you, how would you feel if I gave you £1 million right now? And they were both like, yeah, I'd be very thankful. Like, thank you. Like, that'd be amazing. He went, you know what? Let's up the ante. He says, how about if I was to give you both 10 million now, but you can't wake up tomorrow?
Yeah.
And the guy was like, nah, like, no. Yeah. Like, no, keep it. And the motivational speaker basically said, so what you're telling me is your life is worth more than 10 million? He said, absolutely. He said, so waking up every morning is worth more than 10 million? He said, yeah. He said, so why don't you act like it? when you wake up every morning,
Mm.
why are you sad or glum or you're miserable because you're doing this or that? He says,
Yeah.
and it's true. Like, it's all about perception. Like, everyone goes to work. Do you enjoy your job? Maybe. You might love it. You might hate it. It might just be there because you need to pay the bills. But you woke up, and this conversation could spiral
I know.
but it's the idea of what he was saying that I really enjoyed. It was a very, very good analogy on life. I just think, some people are in good situations, some are in bad. But I think, like you said, the only one certainty is we're all going to go out the same way. It's just enjoy your time. It's
because you never know.
I was very much live every day like it's your last. You never know. And you know what? I've realised recently that I was never actually living my life like it was my last. It wasn't until we lost Tom that I actually thought, me, like, it really could be your last day at any point. At 33 years old, it's like, that's scary. You know what I mean? Like, it's scary.
And then when you have a family, it kind of almost pushes that home, again.
Yeah.
Because you're responsible for someone else. You kind of got to be responsible for yourself, but you got to be responsible for someone else's life. But so just a couple of things to sort of close off, and this is totally random. Like, Dane does a kind of, what does he do? He's like, do your ultimate band. Whoever you want to play in your band, you're the drummer or guitarist, and you do this. And I kind of, because I said I like chocolate, I like cake. I've got a weakness for sugar. Give me a brownie, I'll just scoff it. A while ago, I did this thing on a radio station. I did this post on a thing. Basically, I said, "This is the Premier League of chocolate bars. Like, I support, for my sins, Newcastle United. Like, my dad did move there in the war for a couple of years, and that's how I fell in love with City. That's why I support Newcastle, because of him, and they're actually doing really well, and they've got a ton of money. But yeah, everyone has a favourite, sweet or savoury, but has a favourite thing. So I'm going to do sweet, and then I'll do savoury, like what your favourite, like your top three. So, for example, chocolate bar, I would say, I don't know if this is in order, but picnic, that's the top. That's like top of the table. Double decker, again, I'd say is way up there. And then the third, this is possibly controversial because I prefer Cadbury's over Nestle, but I love the purple Yorkie, which got raisin and biscuit. I just love it. So for you, what would you say is your top kind of, could be chocolate bar, could be cake, could be crumble, whatever. What would you say is your top three, like, sweet?
So my top three sweet things. I love a white Twix.
A white Twix.
A white Twix, yeah, white chocolate Twix.
Okay.
Don't know why, just absolutely do. My other half's in the other room shouting "Goo!" The cheesecake pots.
Oh God, they're amazing because you get the glass pot as well.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm gonna have to throw that in there.
I'm with you on
something that is
on
our daily shopping list. Goo, courtesy of Sicily. And then, well, now she's throwing that one in there. I'm gonna go with, solely for memories and just because they're bloody good. Every time we used to tour in Europe, we always used to, well, me especially, I always used to buy these from the service station, and then I found them in Sainsbury's. Stroop waffles.
Yeah, they're amazing.
They're amazing. Yeah, I've got a soft spot for them.
Do you put them on top of your coffee or tea and then let it melt a bit?
Yeah, and then you always tend to find you get a smaller Stroop waffle that you don't realise it's small, and you put it on top of your tea, and it falls straight in.
Try it in a brownie. When I went down to Wimborne, where Banjo Pete lives, I went to this like delicatessen, and they had a Stroop waffle. Basically, imagine a Stroop waffle sandwich. So Stroop waffle on the top, Stroop waffle on the bottom, and in the middle a brownie. Flipping heck, good. Very
sounds
good.
like diabetes waiting to happen. That does, but it sounds good.
Yeah, I'm trying to wait to see if I'm pre-diabetic, because I just eat a lot of sugar. But anyway, and savoury. Now this could be steak, it could be pizza, it could be your favourite type of takeaway, type of food. So, for example, don't know again if it's in order, but I love curry. you know, obviously the English have bastardized a lot of curry over here, but I love an Indian. It's one of my favourite things. I love Italian food. I love Italian wine. My wife, she says Italian wine's insipid, but I went to Venice, like, you know, after my dad passed, I took my wife's dad on a whiskey tour to Scotland. I love whiskey, and went to Venice, and I love Italian food. Went to Rome with my dad, Lake Garda. I just love Italian food and Italian wine. And then third, it's really difficult. Indian, Italian, like you don't really get Italian takeaways, but I love steak, like meat steak. You know, like you get these places like Casa Brazil where you got meat on a skewer, and steak. I love. So it could be top 3, top 4, top 5. What's your favourite savoury?
Well, I'd definitely say steak is definitely up there. I love a good steak. Can't go wrong with a steak. Oh. You've kind of taken what I'd exactly say. I love curry. Smell for my third.
Doesn't have to be, like I said, a particular dish. It could just, like I said, be like Chinese or you know.
Oh, do you know what? Like savoury. It sounds daft, and it's not really a meal, but like crisps. I just in general.
Yeah.
Just in general, like just I could sit and gorge on crisps daily. Like, and that's awful, but yeah, like genuinely, like it's probably one of those staple part of my diet, like in a day.
Crisp sandwich, nothing wrong with like a Walker's Wendy salt crisp
when
sandwich.
I was younger, it's really sad, but when I was younger, I used to skateboard a lot when I was a kid, and like I'd come home for lunch, I'd come home, and I don't know why, but I absolutely loved like a really cold flat glass of lemonade. I don't know what, everyone says that, they're like, what? But a flat glass of like cold lemonade, white bread, Lurpak, salt and vinegar Pringles.
Oh, what sandwich?
Oh yeah, it's that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean Lurpak, I like Lurpak.
Strange.
Pringles. See, I think Pringles as a crisp, overrated. I love. Okay, he's like, what's your favourite crisp? One of my favourites is Discos. Purely, if you have the salt and vinegar, or if you have the prawn cocktail, they're so tangy. And like, if you ever do it, like when you got the little crisps in the packet, and you kind of like a digger or whatever, you just tip it down your throat, and then you get like almost the powder, that's kind of come off the crisp. It's so sour. It's like, oh, it's just so nice.
No, it's a very good comment, mate. They do like. You get to the point with them where they turn like your mouth white.
Yes, I know.
But yeah, no.
That's food for thought.
Very good shout.
Food for thought. I don't do crisp sandwiches. I did cornflake sandwiches when I was young, but I had to put the cornflakes in the fridge. So the cornflakes were cold and I put the bread in the fridge. But I didn't do butter, so it was a bit dry, but I liked it.
Fair enough.
Don't do that now.
That's a combination, that is.
But I'm gonna say goodbye. Honestly, I really appreciate you taking the time, and Soul Revival. I'm really looking forward to seeing you guys in November 2023 at the Gifford. Never played there, but I know it's a lot of people say it's a very good venue, and
great place to play, mate.
Brett's a good bloke, and I'm looking forward to it. Having a beer, catch up. First beer on me. So yeah, that's gonna be on the internet. So yeah, first beer on me. Look after yourself and the family. Good to see you virtually, and take care. We will see you in a couple of months.
Yeah, that sounds good to me, mate. Thank you very much for having me.